Welcome back to Learn Website Making 101. We are at Class 2. I am JP, and if you haven't watched the Class 1 episode yet, I recommend you actually go and do that first because this series is designed and developed on a way that it builds upon the previous lessons. But if you feel confident enough, jump right in, follow along, you're more than welcome. We left off kind of on a cliffhanger with the previous episode, and the reason why I say it's a cliffhanger because I didn't show you how to exit from your Brizy builder where you had been building this section, this block. Now just to show you, this is the block that we had created and we are viewing it on the front end. And remember, the front end is the area that shows when you visit someone's page. So if I give you a website address, you put it in the browser and you go there, that is the front end. The back end is where we do all the building. So this is the front end. Let's close this tab, and this is inside the Brizy builder where we had built out this block. Now there are a few ways that you can get out of here, but what is very important before you leave, remember always to save. You can save here in the bottom right hand corner by clicking on Update, or remember the shortcuts, Control S, Command S. I know shortcuts are one of those things that you either like them or you just don't use them. But once you get used to a shortcut, let me guarantee you, you're going to find how easy and how fast things speed up, and that once you cannot use that shortcut anymore, how it actually will slow you down. Shortcuts is a really good way of speeding up your workflow. Instead of exiting back to the dashboard where all our websites are, I'm going to just close this browser. So I'll go up here to the top right-hand corner and I'll just close out. If you had saved your work, it will close like this. And now we are back to my desktop and that browser is closed. The reason I did that is I just want to show you how you get back into Brizy, how you get back into your dashboard so you understand the workflow. Let's open our browser again, and remember I told you that I use a Chromium-based browser, which means that this browser is based on Chrome. You can also go and download it. It's free to an extent. It's not entirely free, but you can get it and have a trial or use it for free for 30 minutes a day. So if you want to do like what I'm doing, checking how it looks on a mobile display and then on a tablet display, you can go download it, and every time you want to check it, you just use that 30 minutes in a day to make sure that it looks good. Otherwise, all your other browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, the new Microsoft Edge, Safari, all of them will do the job. I open my browser, and remember, we go to brizy.cloud, and let me just take that extension away, enter, and it takes us again to this page where we go to the Brizy site. I'll just deactivate this, go to browsing mode. And then over here, you click again on account login. I didn't log out previously, and this is one of the things that Brizy will remember. It will remember your details. So when you come back, you should find the same screen that I'm showing you, class 1, this one that we had created in the previous tutorial. If you don't see this, it means you are logged out. And you know that if you go up here and you don't see your email address. But let's sign out and we sign back in just for you to see, and I'm not going to do it every time, just for you to see how to do this. So I'll sign out here, and now you're out of it. If I click again on account login, it's going to show me again the Brizy dashboard, but there aren't any projects in it, and this is a guest account, which you shouldn't be using. Let's go to profile, click on sign in, and click here on login. Put in my email address, there we go, and my password. Oops, always a challenge, and I try to remember them, and click on login. I get successfully logged in, I can save it. This time I'm going to click on save, and now we are back here in our dashboard. This is where our websites, also called projects in Brizy Cloud, will appear. And remember, we had created this project, we'd given it a name class 1, and then to go and edit it, to build it, you click here on edit project. Let's do that, and it will take you back into the Brizy builder, And here we are with this block that we had created. Let me show you how you exit from here back to the dashboard. Go to this area on the left, which we refer to as a sidebar. And then you see these little three stripes. Often we call this a hamburger menu. Now, hamburger, you will see the meat in the middle and the bun at the top and the bottom. That's why we call it a hamburger menu. Click on the hamburger menu, and then you see here, go to dashboard. Select that, and it takes you back to our dashboard for Brizy Cloud, where you can work on all your projects. This is our preview button. If I click on it, it takes us to the front end of that page we had created. Let's talk about the website address. You have created this website, but how do you share it with other people? If you want to give it to your family to tell them, hey, I created this, go have a look. Let me know what you think. You need to give them a website address. Now that website address, we have a few words for it. The one is called your domain. Domain is your area. So domain is another word for website address. Just remember that. Then there's a third one, URL. So remember that because we use them, interchangeably. Sometimes I'll say URL, sometimes I'll say domain, sometimes I'll say website address. That is the address that you give somebody, you share it with them, they type it into their browser's address bar, and then it will take them to your page. To find that, you go here to the front end, and you highlight what you see up there. And if you can look very carefully, it says apricot 1567057.brizy.site. Now remember, this is a free platform. You cannot just go and change this to any website address that you want, because for that you'll have to pay a little something. In this series, we keep everything free, so we are going to stick with this one. Just remember it's free. Don't complain about what you get for free. So highlight it, and then on your keyboard, or right-click here, you select copy. Your keyboard is Control-C for Windows, Command-C for a Mac. Now I'm going to open another browser, just to show you how it works. Down here, I click on Microsoft Edge, which is another browser. I'll click here, and then I'll paste it. I can right-click, paste, or Control-V, Command-V. And you will see it pastes https:// and the rest of your website address. Now, even though if I go back to the original page, you don't see the https:// it is there. It just doesn't display it because it thinks it's unnecessary to display it. All your websites are going to look like that. But when you copy it and you paste it, you're going to see that displays, and that's good, that's correct. Now, you gave this to your brother or your sister, your cousin or your little niece, and when they paste that and they enter, they are going to be taken to this site that you had created. And this is the front end. We've been talking a lot about the front end. Here it is. And they will say, marvelous job, because they're quite impressed. You have a website address and you've done this. It's something to be very proud of. Let's close this and let's look at class 2 for today. This is the front end. I'll close it. We're back in the dashboard. So remember, if you want to view the page, how it looks to your user from here, just click here on open. We can build onto this one, but what I'm going to do for our series is to keep them separate. So we're going to create a second website. And you will see down here that HTTPS, it appears over here. So you see the address over here. Every time we create a new website, you're going to get a new website address, a new domain, a new URL for that specific site. Click here on Create New Project. And remember, we are creating a website. So we click here on Create. Brizy Cloud is going to create a second project, and we're going to give it a name, highlight it, and we call this one Class 2. And that's it. To go in and work on it, we click on Edit Project, and that's going to allow us to build it out, which we refer to as the builder, in this case, the Brizy Builder. To begin building, do you remember how to do that? Very simple. Click here on the blue dot with the plus in the middle, and we are going to bring in a blank block. Click on this one, and it brings in the block exactly the way we did in class 1. Before we start building on this one, I just want to show you a very important thing that we do in website making all the time. Remember how we brought in the text previously? We clicked here on this plus, or you can go up here to the sidebar on the left and click here on Add Elements. So either of these two pluses will open the drawer for us and show us all the elements that we can use. Now, we used this text element previously, and we did it by click and hold and drag it and drop it. To delete this text element, you simply click on it to interact with it, and the settings toolbar opens here, and you will see the delete icon here on the right. Click on delete, and it's gone. Remember, delete is a very important function. You're going to use it quite a lot. That feature that I talked about that we love to use when making websites is to provide structure to our site. We do that with rows and columns. If you work within Word, and let me open Word here to show you quickly what I would refer to here, is very similar to using a table. Sometimes we use tables, we can add columns, we can add rows, and by doing so, we create structure. We can put different things in different parts of this table. This is very similar to what we do on a website. Sometimes we want columns, sometimes we want more control, and for that we have these elements, and they are container elements. So let's go back to our browser, click on the plus here or on the one up here, and then here at the bottom you will see it says grid. Now grid is more or less the same as a table. All these lines here that give you the shape, that is a grid. These are grid elements. Same as the text element, they are elements that you drag onto your page. The difference between these, which I refer to as content elements, and these are container elements. The difference for me between these two is that when I use them, I don't have anything inside them. They are empty. They are exactly like this table here or an empty Excel sheet. When I use these guys up here, like the text element, and I drag it in, there's text. There is something in there. There is content in there. Click again and delete. Click on the plus. Let's bring in columns because you're going to see we are going to work with columns all the time, a lot. Click and drag exactly the way you would have done with the text element and drop it there. And the moment I did that, you would understand what we are aiming for here. Now I've got two pluses here instead of just that one plus, which shows me here I have a blue line running all around this one. And here I have another one for the right. I've got two columns. And that's how you're going to structure your page. Instead of just having one column, you can have two. To bring in content, we do exactly the same like we did previously. You click here, it opens this drawer. Let's drag in text and drop it there. And then let's do it also for this side. Click on this one. You don't need go again here. It's still open. Click and drag and drop it. And now we've got two columns with text in it. If you hover over any of these columns, you will see this blue line appears. This we refer to as a bounding box. This is the fence, the border of the column. You'll hear me use this bounding box because bound is like a border. It's a border and it binds everything together. We call it a bounding box. And this column and its bounding box have settings. To access those settings, you go up here to the top right-hand corner where you see this little up pointing arrow within the blue dot. If you click on it, it opens the toolbar with all the settings here. Remember, for the text element, you simply click on it and it opens the toolbar. For the column, you go up here, click on that dot, and you get the settings. If you go to the second column on the right, click again, and you see the same. Two things I'm going to show you here about columns. One is how to add another column. If I go back to Word, you see Word has many ways of adding columns. You can click here on this plus, or you can right-click and you can say Insert columns to the right or left, and this is how you add more columns. In Brizy, go to the settings of the column. Let's go to this one. Click on the settings, and under it you will see there's another plus. There are tooltips. Now, tooltips are those little boxes with the text that appear every time you hover over something. So this one says Add New Column. If I hover over the one next to it, it says Settings. Let's go to Add New Column, click on it, and you will see it adds a third column in the middle between these two. What I want you to observe, though, is it added a column. There's nothing inside here. Again, you can go over here, click on Add Elements, and bring in an element and drop it there. Now I want to show you duplicate column. Go again to the first column, click on the settings, and then here, this one, second from the right, hover over it, and you see the tooltip says duplicate. What do you expect to happen when you click on this? Click, and now you have a fourth column that was entered next to it, but what it had done is to take all the content within that column and it duplicated it. So now you have that text element also here. Remember the difference between these two. You can add a column, so you go to the settings, click on the plus, let's do it over here. Go to this column, and it will give you another column without any content. But you can also duplicate a column. So go to this one, column settings, click on duplicate, and it will take the same column with all the content inside it and make a copy of that. This is how we work with columns, how we build up structure and make sure that our website can look good for different devices as well. That's a quick introduction to columns. We'll get back to it. Let me show you how to delete an entire block. Go up to the block, here where you see the little two sliders icon, click on that and that gives you all the settings for the block. The first one on the right is the little trash can. That's delete. By clicking on this one, it's going to delete the entire block. Let's do that. Great. Now we can begin with the real work. In class 2, we're going to build, again, another hero banner, a hero section with a hero image. That is the big image that appears at the top of your page. Let's start building and see if you have some idea of what we need to do first. Click here on Start Building Your Page. Then click on Add a Blank Block. What we want to do next is we want to put an image in the background. So we go to the settings of the block here, select, and second from the left, the tooltip says background, click on it, and we want to bring in an image. Currently, we don't have an image yet, so I'm going to show you once again how to get an image, how to bring it in, how to format it. I'm not going to do it every time, but for the first few classes, we will do that so you can get used to it. Let's open a new tab here in our browser, and we go to freepik.com. And I'm going to search for this image, and if you cannot find it, I will put the link to that image in the description below. This one I call front view hand holding milkshake. I know the keywords already for it, so I should be able to find it. And we say search. And here, this one over here, this pink one, if you click on it, it will take you to the image. This is the one that we will be working with. I click on download. I'm not logged in, but it is a free download. I just have to give attribution to Freepik, which is thank you Freepik for this. Click here on free download. That's going to open it, and it will download here in the bottom left-hand corner of my browser. And you can see the size pretty big, even in this zip folder, 12.8 megabytes. Images is something we will talk a lot about in the future, but in this beginning parts, I'm just going to show you how to work with it, how to get it ready, and then later we can talk about the big decisions. Let's click on this one. It's going to open my browser. There is the image. I'll click and drag it to my downloads folder. Then I'll replace the file in the destination. Yeah, I already have one, so I'm going to replace it. Click on downloads, and here it is. You will not see that message that I just saw because I already had it there. Now it is here in my downloads folder. Next, I'll go to Pixlr, open a new tab, pixlr.com, pixlr.com. Click on Advanced Pixlr E. And then from here, you can see this is the image that we had worked with previously. Very smart, right? Scary world we live in, that they can remember this browser and this IP address of yours. We remember you. Click on Open Image, and then I select this one. Click Open, and we get this screen. It says that, hey, this image of yours is way too big. Look at that, 6,472 pixels in width at 4,314 pixels in height. And I told you previously, this is too big for a website. It will slow your website down. So we tried to bring it down to full HD or to web. Now I'm going to go for full HD. I like it a little bit bigger. So I click on full HD, make sure it's selected, and then you click here on apply. Now I have my image. I have to save it back to my computer because all I've done at this moment is I resized it. So now it's the size I wanted, but I still need to save it. Just on a side note, Pixlr can do many things. It can make this image, wow, it can make many things with this image. If you know, like Instagram filters, you have all those options here, something you can play around with when you have free time. Let's go and save it. Go to the file up here. Click on Save, which is also Control S, Command S, and it will give you this pop-up dialog box. We give it a name first, and we're going to call this Milkshake. That's all, easy one. I'll keep it on JPG, because photos, images like this that are photos, real life, we keep it on JPEG. But I'm going to select here medium, and this time we have a very small file, 76.7 kilobytes. The reason it is so small is because of this image. Most of the background is just one color, so it's very easy for this image to be much smaller. So I'm going to put it on medium and then click on download, and then it will download it again here. And I'm done. Okay, so thank you very much, Pixlr. Remember that. Also put for you a link in the description below. Let's close this. We're done with the photo editor. We're also done with Freepik, so we close all of this out. And then we go back here to our block within Brizy. And this should still be open. If it isn't open and it looks like this, go to your block, settings, over here background, and click on image. It will open your Finder and your Explorer, and make sure you choose this one, Milkshake. Otherwise, if you choose this one, you're going to choose 12.8 megabytes. It's going to take a very long time to upload, even longer for people to access your website. So we click here on Milkshake, click on open, and in good time, Brizy is going to upload that image, and now that image is the background of our block. Let's bring in a text element. To do that, you can click here, or you can go here to the left, click on Add Elements, grab your text element, click, hold, and drag it, and drop it here. And then, to interact with it, click on it one time. First, I will change the color, just so I can see it better. And this is the color option over here. Click on Colors, and then the one on the right, this color swatch. Remember, I told you a swatch is a piece of color. We used it in fabric, piece of fabric color, but we also use it here when we talk about a small little sample of one color, one specific color. So this is a color swatch, and you've got 8 of them here preset at the bottom. The one here on the right is pure white. So I click on that one. I want it at white. You can see after I clicked on it, that little selector jumped here to the top left-hand corner. And whenever you see this kind of display, black is here in the bottom left-hand corner, and see I drag it all the way to the bottom, and pure white is all the way to the top left. But I've got the presets here, so I'll just click here, and it puts it there in the top left-hand corner. Now I have it on white. Let's go and change the text. To select all the text, you can either do this with your cursor selected, or you can use the shortcut keys, Control A, Command A, or like I showed you last time, what I like to do is simply click 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then I select everything. And I'm going to type in caps on my keyboard, the biggest, baddest milkshake in town. The biggest, baddest milkshake in town. Caps is when all those letters appear as capital letters. That's why you have to activate the caps on your keyboard to make sure you can type in caps within Brizy. I'll put it in the center, and to do that we use the alignment function. That is this option over here. Align, click on it, it's in the middle. Second one will put it on the right. If you click again on it, it will give you justification, which is often used in paragraphs, but not for headings. We are busy here with a heading, something that appears only once. As an announcement, that is a heading. Let's put it in the center, so you click again to align it to the left, and then finally we get it in the middle. Let's go and change the font. So to do that, you go here for T for typography, click on that, and over here on the left you have fonts. If you're like me, you love fonts. You like changing things up, and you like to make sure every time it looks a little bit different. So you can see that Brizy Cloud from here has quite a number of fonts. Very good fonts, and these are very popular fonts. So you are most likely to find many of those fonts here. For example, this font here, Montserrat, is a very popular font. Click on that one. That's how that will display. Lato or Lato, also very popular font. And you can go through these guys. Like I said, they are all very popular. Roboto, Oswald, Oxygen, all of these fonts. If you go to many websites, you will probably see fonts like Montserrat being used all the time. But, what if you had a font that you wanted to use? Or what if you just wanted something different than all of these fonts that are here on the left? And by the way, where did Brizy get these fonts? Now, fonts are one of those things that they are included in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other kinds of software. We never really think, where do they come from? Now, if you go to Word and you look down here, you will see fonts appear here, and you are just usually are used to it that they come with Office, right? When you install it with Word, they are there. But actually, these fonts are made by companies, and you can go and buy them actually, or sometimes you can get them for free. Now, a few years ago, Google went and they bought a lot of fonts. And I mean a lot of fonts. And these fonts are all free to use. And you can bring any of those fonts into Brizy. But let's go and have a look at those Google fonts first, so you can understand a little bit about fonts. And I urge you to spend the next 5 minutes just to understand a little bit about Google fonts. We will also talk about fonts more. For now, just understand how Google fonts work. Open a new tab here in your browser and type in fonts.google.com. fonts.google.com. And this is going to take you to this massive library of fonts that you can get from Google for free. Right, so let's just say OK here. And from here, you can see already, look here, Lato. Lato is here. So there's Roboto. I also mentioned that one. Here is Montserrat. So if I click on Montserrat, it's going to open this font. And then here is some text. And it will show you that you have all these variations of this font. Each one looks a little bit different, and that's why you get all these different styles. We also refer to them as weight. Let's go back. I'll just click here back so we can go to the very beginning. So what you do if you are bored with those fonts that you see in Brizy is that you can come here and you can sit and go through all these fonts. Look there, 989. May not sound like a lot, but boy, that is quite a number of fonts. And all of these fonts are for free. So if you go here to Merriweather, for example, and you click on it, you can have a look at how Merriweather will look. And if you like this font and you want to use it in a document that you are preparing within Word, you can go up here and download it and install it on your computer. But to use this font within Brizy Cloud, you don't need to download it. All you need to know is the name of the font that you want to use within Google Fonts. So let's go back one more time. And I know the font that I want to use is also, well, it's not that well known, but it's also a popular font. So I'm just going to, from the first page, scroll down here, and I'm looking at the names to see if I can see it. And if I don't see it in the next 20 seconds, we will just jump back. So I don't see it, and you can see I've been scrolling quite a ways down all the way to the bottom. Okay, so I know the font that I want to use. It is a Google font. And then what we're going to do is you can close this one. Go back here to your text, click on it to open the toolbar, go to typography, and click here on Add New Font. This is going to open up the font manager. And you will see we talked about Google fonts. Here they appear. And then over here is also an option to upload custom fonts. We're not going to cover that in this series of 101, so you don't have to worry about this one. We're only going to focus on Google fonts. Why? Because it's free. Click on this, and now you have the option to bring in that font. So remember, you have to remember the name. So let's say, for example, Merryweather. Tongue twister there. That is the font. So I type in here Merryweather, and as I type it in, I have the selections down here. So you can see it appears there. Delete that because we're not going to use Merryweather. We're going to use one called Livik, L-I-V-V-I-C, Livik. And there you see, it recognizes that Livik is a Google font. Click on it. After you have selected it, click on Continue, and it's going to tell you all done. You have successfully connected the form with Google Fonts. Click on Done. Now go back here. Click on it. Go to T for Typography, and you will see Livik appears here at the top. This is how you can bring in any Google font to Brizy Cloud. So why aren't they loaded from the beginning? You see, it takes up some data. If Brizy were to bring in all 989 fonts with all the different versions of that font, you actually add more data to your site, and it could bloat. We call it bloating, and it could slow down your site. We don't want that. So we only use those ones that are popular and the ones that we select. So don't bring in every font in Google just because you have too much time on your hand. Go to Google, go have a look what you need. If you find a font that you like, you come back to Brizy Cloud, click on Add New Font, and you go through that procedure. Right, so let's select Livik, and you will see it changes, and this is how Livik will look. Of course, this is way too small, so let's increase the size first. And you can click here on the up arrow, or you can double click inside and you can simply type something. I've gotten to 54 pixels, and that gives me this nice title up here. So this is the size. Let's also talk about weight today. Weight, you see the line here of the A, right? Or let's talk about the T rather. You see this vertical line of the T. That is how thick the line is when we talk about weight. Let's go back here. I deselected it. For example, if I click here to weight, under it I will see thin. Watch what happens to the T, the thickness of that T when I click on thin. You see it becomes very thin. And it makes the font look very different. It's a different kind of feeling. Now thin is as thin as it goes. Sometimes you may get extra thin or extra light. You can see here, thin is usually the thinnest it can go. If you scroll down with your cursor, you can see there are quite a number of options under weight. You have thin, extra light, light, medium, semi-bold, bold, and then black. Black is the thickest it will go. So click on black, and you'll see now that T is really, really thick. But by selecting black, we made everything a little bit larger. And because of that, it pushed this word town to the next line. Because here with these dots, let me just show you. Here with these dots, oh, I cannot see. That color is a little bit difficult to see. Let me just clear that one out. Let's use white. Let me show you. So here, this is the area that is the container for the text element. So the moment the text wants to run outside of this box, it's going to drop it into a new line. Keep that in mind. So to get it back to one line, we have to make the text a little bit smaller. Click on it to interact with it. Go to T for Typography, and let's say size. Click down one time. Nope. Click down a second time. Nope. 52, no. 51. Okay, we got it back, but let's put it on 50 just to have a nice round number. We want to make this a hero image, remember, so this is way too small. No one can even see that. That is a milkshake. So to make this block bigger, we had looked at adding more padding. We have padding at the top, and as I hover with this cursor here at the top, you see the padding is 75 pixels. And remember, the padding is the distance between the border of the block and the border of the content, which is this text here. I can click and drag here. So click there at the top, hold and drag. and you will see those blue numbers. But because it's a pink background, it's really difficult to see. And if you have maybe a problem with eye color, you're going to have a really hard time seeing the difference and seeing what the measurement is. So how can you set this without having to have this problem that I'm having now? Where is it? Let's say I want to put it at 200 pixels. I can see it's at 194 pixels at the moment, but maybe for you it's very difficult to see it. And for that, you can go into the block settings and you actually have more control over how to set this padding. So let's go through this new part for you to learn. Remember where the block settings are? Up here, you go to the block where you see this little black icon with the sliders in there. Click on it and it opens the toolbar for you. Then go to the settings. It's this little cog icon. You will see settings tooltip. Click on it. But this is more settings. So we go to this one here that says more settings. Click on that. And this is going to open up this sidebar on the right with more settings for styling. Styling is all about how things look. Then there are some advanced features. We'll cover all of this in the lessons to come. But the first one is the important one, padding. Because we've talked about padding last time. We said you can add padding at the top, and that's where you see this little blue line at the top. And we added padding at the bottom, so the little blue line here at the bottom. So these squares show you that you have your box at the top, right, bottom, and left. This is very common in page builders and when you're building websites, that you have control over each of the sides respectively. Top, right, bottom, left. You can also link them, but we don't want to link them. We want to make sure that we can add that. So let's look here at the one at the top. This is the top. It shows the blue little line at the top is selected, so we know we are working with the one at the top. And you have this slider here. Don't be scared, you cannot break anything. This product doesn't really belong to you, so you can make all the changes in the world, and if you mess it up, you can come back and just do it from the beginning. Grab the slider and just drag it all the way to the left. And as you drag it all the way to the left, you will see that here it says 0px, 0 pixels. And if you go to the top and you hover with your mouse there, you're going to see nothing because there's no padding. This container is now all the way to the top. So your text is almost at the top. If I grab the slider again, I drag it all the way to the right, it's going to stop at 100 pixels. And as I hover here, you will see it will say 100 pixels. So I can click and drag here on the block. But if I need more control, I can come here and let's see how do you get here again. Click outside here to deselect everything. Let's go to the block, access the toolbar, settings, more settings, styling, and you see padding here. Right, so I want 200 pixels. How do I get 200 pixels? This slider only goes to 100. It doesn't go over the 100. You can click in there and double click to select everything. And then on your keyboard, simply type in 200 pixels and it will jump to 200 pixels. Good. Now we do the same for the bottom one. And you see again, go here to the one at the bottom, the blue line selected for the bottom border. And we know we can only drag this slider up to 100. So we double click in there to select everything and then type in 200. And now we have 200 at the bottom and 200 at the top. So if you have a very specific number that you want to enter, you can do it this way. If you cannot see very clearly what's going on, especially if the background is blue, you're not going to see anything, then remember where to access these controls. Now, while we are here, you may start wondering about, but wait, there's padding for the right and padding for the left? Yep, we will get to that, but not today. Not today. Click outside, and there is our hero banner that we have created. Remember, what is the number one thing you have to do regularly while making a website? You have to save it. Go to the bottom and you will see it says publish because this is a new project that we had created, and the first time it will say publish. If I click on publish after this, it will say update. You can just update it from now on or use Control S. You will see the spinning wheel or Command S on a Mac. I'm going to just close this bar here at the bottom for my browser. Gives me a little bit more real estate. And let's go view it on the front end. So we click here on preview, this button here, takes us to the front end, and let's see how it looks. And I want you to be critical of this banner image. Let's say you have a yogurt shop or a milkshake shop like a Milky Lane or something that you are promoting this site, and you want this page to really invite people to come to your shop and come and experience these wonderful milkshakes. What is wrong with your image here? It just doesn't look like a milkshake, right? That is a very important thing to note here. You see the milkshake there, but it feels kind of off because you can see the glass, you see the hands, but it feels like things are cut off. What you can do though is you can add more space at the top and the bottom to bring in more of the image. But what if that is not your design? Let's close the front end. We go back here, and now I'm going to show you how you can set the focus point for any image in a background. If I want to work on this image here for the background of the block, I have to go to the block settings. Go up here to the block, access it to bring out the toolbar, go to background, and here you will see the little image, the thumbnail of this image that we had used for the back. Do you see the blue little dot there? What does this blue dot do? Click on it and start dragging it around. So with this, you can change the focal or the focus point of your image. That part that you want to have in focus, or that part you want to have featured when people come to your site. And I want this part, I want a little bit of the hand with the straw. So if this is all the real estate, the only space that I have, I'm going to choose this. But maybe you like this one. This is actually not a bad idea either. But you want to show bad, and bad is sweet and sugar, right? So we go here to the top because this is pretty bad. But I like the hand with the straw, gives a little bit of a human element. And that is how you set the focal point of any image in a background to make sure this is the part that will display on the front. Let's save it, Control S, Command S. Let's go preview it on the front end, click here. And then you will see that that is the part that is going to show. Great, this is wonderful to have this kind of control. Let's close here. We've done a lot here, but it's actually not good enough. And the reason for that is that this text running over the milkshake, wouldn't it be better if the text were just here on this area on the left? We've got all this pink area. Look at this massive area that we have. Which one is this? Look at this area here. All this space that we have here to put the text, and we run it over this image here. What if we can just put the text here on the left, and on the right it's empty? I gave you a clue there. So what do you think we can do? Let's click on the text first and we delete it. So we take it out, go all the way to the right, click on delete. And now you can see we have still the padding of 200 pixels at the bottom and at the top. And my focal point remains here. Now it's empty again in the middle. So to have a left and a right, remember the clue? Columns. Click here on the plus, go to the sidebar on the left, and at the bottom under grid, click and drag a column in. Click, hold, drag, and drop. And now we have these two columns. We're going to put the text element only in the left column. So go to add elements, grab the text element, drag it and drop it, select it. Let's put it on white so we can see it. Then I'm going to triple click and select everything and type in caps the biggest, baddest milkshake in town. And we do the same. Go to typography, put it on Livic, go to size. I'll double click, and what did we put it on previously? Wait, let's first put it here on weight. I'll put it on black. And then here, I'm going to put it on 84. I already know the number I want to use, 84. Let's save it and go and see how it looks on the front end. And then we decide, does it look good? Or do we need to make a few changes? Control S, Command S, go to the front. And it's actually very strong, right? It has a very big impact. But the problem we have here is that this is just too big. You shouldn't ever have a hero banner that you need to scroll. You can see here on the right, I need to scroll from one text to the next text. That's never a good idea. That's problem number one. Problem number two is when we work with a heading like this one, that's a very strong heading and introduces our site, the space here between these lines are way too big. It almost looks like these are separate lines. It doesn't look like one sentence. So we have to reduce this space between these lines. How do we do that? Let's go to the back end, and I'm going to leave this one open. We go to the back end, click on the text to interact with it, and look where the toolbar is here at the bottom. Click on T for typography. I scroll down a little bit. Here we are going to work with line height. Line height is the space between lines of text. So if it breaks into a second line, or we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, the line height is the space between these lines. And it's measured in something called M. You don't have to worry about that. Just know that it's a measurement that's being used, and it's actually a very common measurement around the graphic design industry. Here you just learn how to look at it and how to work with it. It is set by default in Brizy to 1.9, but you can see in this case, it's just way too big. Let's reduce it, and you will see what happens when we reduce it. I'll click in there, type down 1.7, 1.6, 1.5, 1.4, and you can see as I go down, it reduces the space between the text. Here we are at 1.1, and the lowest it will go is 1. No more than that. I'll put it on 1.1. I like a little bit more of that space there. And look at this now. This looks like a good title. The biggest, baddest milkshake in town, and it fits in nicely on one screen. Biggest, baddest milkshake in town. But I think also maybe the padding is a little too much. Let's reduce the padding. So I want to put the padding at 100 pixels at the top, 100 pixels at the bottom. Do you remember how to get to more settings for your block? Go to the block here for the toolbar, settings, more settings, and then here you have the padding. I can just grab the slider, drag it to the left and then to the right. It gives me 100 pixels at the top. And then for the bottom, same. Just grab the slider because the maximum the slider will go is at 100 pixels. Now my milkshake looks a little bit weird again, so we have to go and change the focal point because we've played around with the space. Go again to block settings, block. Go to background and play around here. I like this, just around there. Okay, we have those limitations. They told us don't go bigger than this, so we have to do as best we can with where we want to place this image. This looks pretty good, right? You have to agree. We've created a very nice hero section, a hero block, hero banner. This is what we call a hero because the image is this big image with a lot of impact. You have a heading here, and we have the two columns. Let's talk about the second column. What's going on in that column? There's nothing going on in that column. That column is empty, and the only purpose is so that we can have everything here on the left. We can have this line break into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines because we have two columns. If we save this, Control S, Command S, go to the front and refresh here, you will notice there's nothing on the right. Let's just wait for it to refresh. Nothing on the right. There's no content in there. There's only a container here, but you do not see the container. That is how we work with columns. Go back to our Brizy Builder, and now we have to do two more parts of design. One is about how it will look on a tablet, and the second one is how it will look on a mobile device. Go to the sidebar on the left and look here for this mobile view. Click on that, and we select tablet. As the tablet view loads, you will see the sidebar here on the right that we had worked with earlier opens, and it says block. Within the tablet and mobile views, because there is space, because it's a smaller display that we are working with, this sidebar comes out automatically. So whatever you select here will be displayed on the right, and you can see up here it says block. So currently our block is displayed here. Now remember the padding. You see the padding for the top and the bottom. On desktop that is set to 100, and here on tablet it is set to 50. That is a decision made previously by Brizy. Their designers decided we need a little bit space at the top and space at the bottom for our tablet. We think 50 is a good starting point. It's not a rule, it's just a suggestion, and you can decide whether it looks good on your site or not. That is up to you. But the first thing we need to make a change to is the text, because here, this text, because it's so big, doesn't look good. And you can do that responsively, which means that when I change the text here, it will not change on the desktop. To work with the text, click on it. Here is the toolbar. Click on the T for typography, and then for the size, what I'm going to do is just half it to 42. So I double click there and type in 42. And now we have it, and it looks much better. I do think, though, I want the block to still be larger, have a little bit more height, so I want to increase the padding. I just click here on the block settings, and you will see in the sidebar the more settings open. And what I'll do is I'll also put the padding at the top to 100 pixels, grab this slider, drag it to the right, and same for the bottom one. Right? And here you also have control over the image. So if I go to the block here, toolbar, click on background, I still have this selector here. So I'm just going to move it up a little bit with the glass actually coming in at the bottom, just there. And this is how I can set it independently. One for desktop and this one for tablet. And this is how I like it. I think it looks good for my tablet. I put 100 pixels padding at the top, 100 pixels padding at the bottom, and I just reduce the size here, and I change the focal point for the background image. And then the last one that we have to take for a ride, make sure it looks good, and that is our mobile device. Go again to the sidebar here on the left, hover over mobile view, click on it, and select mobile. Before I do that, I want to quickly throw a question to you. How do you think on that narrow display of a mobile, Brizy is going to behave? How do you think it's going to look? Do you think it's going to be very similar to what we had seen here, that the two columns are going to be so squashed? Think about that, visualize it, and now I'm going to select mobile to show you what actually happens in Brizy. And I'm just going to hover here with the cursor so you can have an idea of what is going on here. Okay. The blue, remember? I told you the blue boxes are columns. But something strange happened here. The two columns are now like paragraphs. They are now on top of each other. Is this a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. This is good design, and this is very important that you have to learn this. It actually helps you a lot when it comes to mobile design to do it well. You see, the problem with the mobile design is that when you have two columns next to each other, when somebody looks at the screen on a cell phone, that's sometimes too narrow and things look a little bit cramped and squashed. It's like it's suffocating in there. So what happens with mobile design? Instead of having the columns, like here on tablet, next to each other, we put them on top of each other. And this is called stack. We stack one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. In fact, at the very beginning, I had created up to 6 columns. Do you remember? We duplicated and we added new columns, and we had 6. If I were to view that in mobile, you will see all 6 of those columns stacked upon each other. And that's what we've got here. But now the problem is I just don't need this second column because it's adding space here at the bottom and I don't need it. I actually need it to go away. The problem is if you delete it, you're also going to delete it here. So you cannot delete it. Let me show you. If I go to mobile, I go to this column, you will see the delete option doesn't even appear there because this cannot be deleted. But we can disable the view of this column only for mobile. This is very important, and you have to listen to what I'm telling you next. I can take this column here, click here on the settings where this little blue dot is. And what I can do now is I can tell this column, whenever this page opens on a mobile device, this column should not display. It should be gone. I don't want to see it. And we call that disable. So the column is there, strictly speaking, technically it is there, but it just doesn't display on a mobile device. So if you look here at the toolbar of settings, you see the little eye? That is how you're going to disable or enable it. And when I click on it now, it's going to disappear. So watch, as I click on it, it disappears. If I hover here, I still have this column, but the second column is gone. But it's not deleted. If I go back to tablet, you're going to see there's my second column still. If I go to desktop, there it is also. But the moment I go to mobile, it's not there. So if it's there, but it's not there, where is it? Okay, so let me show you another one. Again, pay attention. It is there, but it's hidden for us because we want to be able to build out this design without it distracting us. So all we did is we hide it. We hid it so that we don't have to see it. But let's say I want to turn it back on. I want to see it. How do I do that? So if you look here at the toolbar in the bottom right-hand corner where we updated and where we previewed, you will see another eye icon appear here all the way to the far left. And if I hover over it, the tooltip says, show hidden elements. So if currently it is slashed through, so it means that it's hidden. If I want to see it, I just click on it and it's going to bring my column back. Now I see the column, but what I want you to pay attention to is that this column, that little blue dot, you can see it's blurred. This is a clue that this is actually hidden. It is there, but you cannot work with it. It won't display. And if you want it to come back and display, you go up here to the settings and then you click here and watch what happens to the blur. When I click on it, it comes back. Now that column is there again. If I go to the toolbar in the bottom right-hand corner and I hide all the disabled elements, it's not going to disappear because it's not disabled. If this doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry, because we're going to do a number of things in the future where this will become very, very clear. But for today, just understand that I didn't delete this column. I disabled it and it is hidden, so I don't see it. So I'm going to disable it again, go to the column settings, click on the eye icon to disable it, and now we only have this one column left. Let's change the font, the size again of this text. So I click on it, it brings up the toolbar, click on T for typography, and in this case I'm also going to half the text. I'll double click and type in 42, and it will reduce it to that level. And then I'm going to bring in padding, and padding on a mobile device is always different. You maybe add more padding at the top, it's not always equal. So what I'll do here in this case, I'll make sure I select the block. So click here on the block. Then you see the padding settings here on the right. Currently you have 25 pixels at the top and you have 25 pixels at the bottom. So for the top, I'm going to put in 275 pixels. That is a value that I tested earlier. Now, I thought it looked okay. And for the bottom, I'm going to put in 145 pixels. And really, that's just like a preference. You could have chosen anything differently. This is not ideal. And I want to say this is not ideal because you can see here the biggest, baddest milkshake in town. This part of biggest kind of fades away against the background. And I'll show you in future classes how do we work with situations like this where the text isn't that clear and we cannot see it that clearly. But for today's tutorial, this is what we're going to do with our mobile display. We can change a little bit again the image, and this is one tip. So go to the block, click on it, go to background, and then grab the selector. And this time I'm going to do this. I'm going to drag it, and I'll drag my milkshake up to here, even here. Click outside. Let's bring a little bit back of the milkshake. Go to the block, settings, background, bring a little bit more in of our milkshake so we can see at least the straw. Yeah, that looks good. And now we see the text also better. Looking good, right? So let's save it. Control S, Command S. And then let's go back to our desktop view. Go to the sidebar on the left. Click on mobile view, select desktop. And now let's go to the front, and we see the front is still open here. Refresh it because you have to load in all that new information that we've brought in. And now I'm going to test this, how this will display on an iPad and how it will display on a mobile device. Within my Blisk browser, I go here and I select Enable Developer Mode. It's going to give me access to that. I go to Favorites, and the first thing I will do is click on Apple iPad. Let me make that full view, and this is how it looks. So you can see we had reduced the size of the text over here. Looks really good. And then if we go to Apple iPhone X, see how the image had shifted to the right, how we had changed that focal selection. And because I added more space at the top and a little bit at the bottom, this is the layout that we get for this display. So whereas when I work with an iPad and a desktop, I will often apply the same padding at the top and at the bottom. Here we had 100 pixels at the top and 100 pixels at the bottom. When it comes to mobile displays, I often put a little bit more at the top and less at the bottom. That's just my design style, my preference for it. We can also check Samsung Galaxy because sometimes that's different. You can see that's quite different, right? It's a little bit more squashed. But for all of these devices, they play and they look very good. So, job well done. Now, before I just exit and stop everything here, let's have a quick recap of everything that we've done. The most important thing that you've learned today is about columns. So if I go to add a new block, I'll click here, bring in a blank block, and then you've learned that you can bring in columns. Click here, add elements, bring in a column. I've also shown you that with a column you can duplicate it. So you can go here, this is duplicate, that will bring in the same content, and this is add columns. Let's just put some random text in there. Click here, grab the text, same for this one, grab the text. Then let's go to this column and let's duplicate it, and we duplicate it again. So now we have 4 columns. I've shown you how to work with that. The other thing I told you is that the moment you go to tablet, it's going to be the same, 4 columns, but when you go to mobile, it's going to be stacked. So you're going to have now 4 rows actually on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other thing I've told you is that you can actually make some of these guys disappear so they won't display even though they are there. For example, let's go to the second column. I can go to the column settings and I disable it by clicking here. It disappears. Let's go to the 4th one. We do the same. It disappears. It's not gone. It's there. It just doesn't show. If you want to bring it back, you go to this option here to unhide it. Click on it, and you will see now all 4 are there, but these 2 are blurred, indicating to you that they will not display on the front end. If you want to bring them back, go to the column and enable it again. Same for this one. So with these functions here, you enable or disable it, and this one here purely shows or hides it for you within the builder. That is the very important part that I had showed you in this class. The other one, and let's go back to desktop, is that when you want to have more control over the padding, the space at the top and the space at the bottom, you will have to access that at the More settings. Go to the block, click on it, Settings, More settings, and you will see this drawer on the side open. We just call it a sidebar. And then here have that control over the padding, and you have it for all the sides individually. That one is top, right, bottom, and to the left. And this is the same for tablet as well as cell phone display. And the last important one is that you have control over which part of this image will always be the focus point when somebody comes to your site. So when I click out here, just to make the sidebar go away, go back to block, background, this is the blue dot that appears here. And from here, you have that control over which part will display. Let's save everything we've done. Control S, Command S. I'll just deactivate my developer mode here. Go to browser and let's exit back to our Brizy Cloud dashboard. Do you remember how to do that? Go to the sidebar all the way to the bottom left where the hamburger menu is. It's where we started. Click on it and select Go to Dashboard. And it brings us back into the dashboard. We have our 2 projects now, one from class 1 and the second from class 2. Now you will notice that we have 2 website addresses, 2 domains, 2 URLs. This one is https:// blah 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 blah, and this one is the same but Perl 190 or pair. That's a pair 190.169, and these are the URLs that you get for free when you use Brizy. You can make a few changes to them. We'll look at that in a future video. To view the project or this website for class number 2, click here on View. It will take you to the front end. And if you want to share this with your friends and family, go and select this address here at the top. Click on it. Control-C, Command-C, or you can just right-click and select Copy. Then go to a new browser or send the link to them. Control-Command-V, and you will see the https:// is added. Press Enter, or when you send it to somebody, they will get the link, and here is the site. Before we say adieu and goodbye, maybe you are not using the Blisk browser. So I use Blisk here, which enables me to go and what they call developer mode, enable developer mode, and then I can choose these devices to see how they will display. But what if you don't want to use Blisk? You use Chrome, or you use Microsoft Edge, you use Firefox, Opera, whatever. Is it possible that you can also on those devices see how it will look on a tablet and a mobile? And the answer is yes. It's not as convenient as Blisk, but you can do it. And don't be scared of it. I'm going to show you how to do it now. So you can use Chrome or you can use Microsoft Edge. Currently, I'm in Microsoft Edge as well as other browsers. If you look at your keyboard, you know at the top of your keyboard, there are those keys, F1, F2, and they go all the way up to F12. While you are viewing the page in your browser, press F12. Go ahead and press it one time. And this is what is going to pop up. You're going to get this thing here on the right, which we often call an inspector, other names as well. A lot of things to scare the living daylights out of you. Do not care about that. You have to just look another way and pretend it doesn't exist. What does exist for you is here at the top. You're going to see the second icon from the left, and it will depend from one browser to the next. There will be an option to view this as an iPhone or an iPad. You will see it looks something like a mobile device or a tablet little icon that appears here. If you click on that, it's going to open the responsive views for you within your browser. Go ahead and click on it, and here, from a drop-down, if you click on it, you're going to see these presets. Moto G4, Galaxy S5, Pixel 2, and usually I go from Galaxy S5, iPhone X, and iPad. Those same things that I did in Blisk, you can do in other browsers. Already it is set to iPad, so you can view it here and you can see that it looks good on an iPad. Let's go for Galaxy S5. Very similar to Blisk, what Blisk had shown us. And then over here, let's go to iPhone X. Same. And you can see just from the iPhone X to the Galaxy S5, how things just change a little bit. And you can scroll through it, make sure that it works well and that it is responsive. In fact, you can do the following. Go to the drop-down and set it up here to responsive. This is going to give you this draggable bar. So you can just drag it like this, and every time it goes from tablet to a mobile, it will adjust. And this is going to be extremely little small mobile, but you can do this. However, that's a little bit crazy, so just go back and choose one of these presets like iPhone X. This will give you the confidence that it looks good. And if you're done here, you can detoggle the option here. Takes you back to how it will look. And to get out of this intimidating view, just press F12 again on your keyboard. And it takes back to life as normal as you used to know it before you had even pressed F12 in your life. This is a perfect way for checking that it will look good on those different devices. This brings us to the end of class 2. Hope it was insightful, lots of useful tips in there, and that you are slowly building up your way to making great websites. This is JP. Have a nice day. See you around.